What is this? I don't know. But this bash will tell me something. Whoa. And you say, no, you can't just. You don't even know what it is. Just because you read this bash, you're going to think, wow, I know what this is. Wow, who knew that people worship words? And people are held accountable in the court of law according to their word, their testimony, this and that, caught in a lie. Oh, you said this and but now you're saying, oh, liar, and go to jail. And this and that and this and this and that. Wow. So yes, who knew that we would live in a age that there's relentless words out there, and there used to be called such things as dictionaries, and those bash words had a bash definition. Who knew? But just because you define something doesn't mean it's what it is. Exactly. So this is a proxy to what this article will attempt to describe, which is causing one's own death. Causing one's own death. That's what happens. But somehow it's just called suicide. It's just suicide. But no, this whole article is about causing one's own death. And you could create all bad shape shifting case scenarios, but in the end, it's you take your own life. Wow, amazing. Who knew? Meaning, what is life? Because you just end it somehow. And you, of course, you would say, "Oh, what about the suffering?" And then, if you're suffering, just smash out by smashing yourself. Amazing, right? What is that? What is it? And you say, "Well, it's not suicide. It's just mercy." Oh, of course. But what happens? Yes, you cause your own death. Wow, who knew? But in the end, isn't in you the philosopher will say, "Oh, we're all in causation, therefore we're all causing our own death because we all die." Oh, and then you say, "Well, yeah, exactly. Life is just a slow death because that's the only certainty, right?" Whoa, what a shame. All because you deny your life, the living. You deny the true promise, life everlasting. All because you think, nah, just because I think that my bash flesh is just that's it, right? Because nobody knows what death is in the sense of, well, we're all living. So when somebody dies, well, you say, well, now they know what it is. And you say, well, no, there's been studies done on people that just die and then come back, right? You just want that to be true, so true, and you believe it, and you say, nah, don't listen to the guy that says it's, God and heaven. No, no, no. Listen to the one that says it's about aliens and you did, and this, or that and that. Or listen to the one that says, nah, it's nothing. It was just nothing, even though I was just there and then I was back. Well, who knows what happened? I just came back. So it's just magic somehow. Wow, amazing. Right? No. What is going on? Nobody has died and come back to life.
So say man and his beliefs. For the word of God has revealed that he has the authority to raise people from their sleep or from their death, as Jesus did with Lazarus, and as Jesus himself, through the authority given upon the Son to rise on the third day after being crucified, given up the ghost, was raised from the dead. So that is the account. No man that taketh his own life suddenly just resurrects because, wow, I came back to my body. I'm here to tell you guys this message, right? because of their own recognition and their own volition. No. For the Word of God also reveals that after the 1,000 years that Satan is in the bottomless pit, the rest of the dead live. And that's how the will of God is fulfilled, that every man come to repentance. He is the only justice, and his way is the only way. And there's no resentment in our hearts that's worth having. For the life we have is not our own, and every single life is here for a purpose, whether we see it or not. Whether we die unto damnation or live unto life everlasting, we have been purchased at a high price through the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. Instead, we're taught to ridiculize the resurrection and the resurrection of the Lord and Savior, Christ Jesus, and instead worship other things as possibilities of multiple reincarnations and you name it.
And this and that and this, and then you say, well, it was a miracle, and this, and he was dead for 8 days, and then he came back. Wow. Right? So where are these people? Well, they're your neighbor and this, right? Because you worship shows like the living dad and this and this. No, it's your teacher, right? It's your municipal leader. It's this and that. It's your bash politician. It's your this and this. Right? It's your children. It's you. Right? No, 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 no. I'm alive. And then I say when I die. And it's called suicide, silly. Right. So you decide when you die, and then that's suicide. Wow, what a shame. No. For ultimately it's, there is a victory, right? In the transition that you call life. So what is a victory? Is it a victory for glory of the creator and that salvation that is the word, right? For without the word, right? What is the anchor? No, it would just be some posh thing that you just it could be anything, everyone. It could be anything. That's what you just wake up as if you had amnesia, everyone, and just wake up and just who cares? Who cares? Take as much as you want and just take as much and just pleasure, pleasure, pleasure. It's Pleasure Island, everyone. Don't you remember? It was from the movie. It was, but don't worry, you won't turn into a jackass. No, no, no. It was just that was part of the propaganda, right? They wanted to tell you that no, 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 you must not give in to your pleasures. No, 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 no. Otherwise, you become an ass. So that's why you have to have self control, everyone. And in doing that, then you can then go into the pleasures. No problem. Only if you have self control, then you can go into the pleasures, okay? Because it's not about just going into pleasures and getting out of there. No, no, no. It's about staying in Pleasure Island, posting in self control, and just pleasure, pleasure, pleasure. All right, then. So what is going on? Oh, no, no, no. It's not that. You got it wrong, buddy. It's about teaching children the moral of some morality. In immorality. Somehow you just have to just listen to the goddess fairy that just says do these things, and then you will be turned into some real bash. So apparently we're all just clinkety clinkety clankety marionettes just smashing out there because some smash old Geppetto just cranked us out and clanked us and carved us out over millions of billions of years. And now we're just giving the promise of living if we just do what the light says. The bash light that just smashes down from the sky and then says, I am a fairy godmother. I'm here to grant you wishes. And this and this and that and this, or oh, I see you're a good boy. And I will grant you life if you do these things. right? So everybody believes that, right? But no, it couldn't be that there's a creator and an ordinance, which is embedded with the word, the truth, and the life. Who knew? And that man is unique in the sense that, wow, right? You could speak, you can word, and it's not just bash words, because the bash, whatever it is that you speaketh, has meaning. You you understand that whatever it is you speak, and you could be saying just crying, right? But in your cry, there is an evocation, and with words, right? We have tried relentlessly to try and give and define it, so we could communicate with each other. Because you're smashed, we're smashed, but yet we know we're smashed, but yet we know, and we're trying to use bash words to just bash, 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 not knowing that, wow, in life is embedded the way, right, the truth and the way, right? So what are we actually embedded in? What is our place? But oh no, you couldn't wait just to take the first trap door out, right? Because oh, it's too hard. It's the hardest suffering I've ever lived, and oh, it just came to that point where I just blasted myself into oblivion, justified it as the high root, right? Or just consumed by fury that that was your last round kick face attempt to life. It was your final ode, F you to the world, right? Because you didn't give a bash. And you knew that this was going to bash hurt people, and you just couldn't wait, right? Because not all suicides are bash. Oh, I'm nothing. Well, ultimately, yes. But ultimately, it's either, it's like, wow, consumeth by, wow, you think you're going to rise like the fury, something, you just give in. Satan wins. He convinced you that by smashing yourself, you win. Right? Because who would ever teach your child? Yes, child, if you ever if your suffering ever gets too hard, yes, kill yourself. What kind of parent would tell their child that? Right? Because ultimately that means that, well, yes, as a parent, I don't give a bash about you, so there's no way that your suffering um is just, ultimately your suffering is what you decide your suffering is, and if you decide that your suffering is not riddable, no way to overcome, no way to endure, no, then just smash yourself. And I will respect you, darling, for that. Yes, I will understand. Don't worry. What a shame. What a shame. What kind of parent would tell their child that? Right? Number one, that your parent doesn't care about you. Right? Because immediately you're telling your child that, listen, you're gonna suffer, but I don't care. Just kill yourself. Right? Because it's up to you to overcome. Right? And the parent's just gonna just feed you and house you, and that's it. They're not gonna feed you wisdom. They're not gonna give you love unconditional. Instead, they're gonna bash you and tell you conditions under what to live under that roof, and then you get their affection, right? Because they grew up with a false love as well, so they're bashed, lost. And just because they're living and didn't end their lives doesn't mean that they don't hate their lives. They resent their spouse, they resent their job, their this, they resent their children ultimately, but they mask it. They pretend everything's okay. They pretend everyone's just neighborly and affable, and let's just go out for tea and smash. No. What's going on? Everybody hates themselves, but they put the mask on of, oh, I'm so inclusive. I am the most open minded. Exactly. You're the most sodomized. You're just open to anything and smash, but somehow you're prideful in what you think is right, oriented by your smash beliefs of losthood. You're lost, right? You don't even know, you have no you nothing. You're standing on nothing in the void, bash, expanse of space that you relentlessly believe in. That's what you're standing in. Just nothing. Nothing that something it came from. And apparently now you just can relax because that nothing was the smashing of two universes from the multiverse that somehow smashed us, and now we're smashing things, and now we're smashing, smashing, smashing. Exactly. So then why do we cry when somebody bash takes their life? Huh? If it's all just smashing and dashing on and just smashing, pumping and dumping and just defiling and using and abusing and rubbing and tugging and pleasure, pulling out and in and just friction and slippity slide and just nowhere, right? If it's all just that, then why did some? And you say, "Well, it's because we have feeling, and it's just complicated." Okay, just the way we evolved. We evolved to just care for each other somehow, but somehow we just go out and do exactly the opposite, and it's just because we're greedy and we're flawed. We're somehow just flawed, and so we'll have bashes that just take their own lives because they saw no way out of the suffering, and then they just hope for the best, and whatever came next, or they just didn't care. They had no regard for what life was and what enduring was, and they just didn't want to see it to the end. They had no faith. They just gave up, all because of cowardice. They didn't want to suffer. Suffer what? What are you suffering? Oh no, they never told anyone. They just had relentless books that the journals that they wrote and manifestos that will just be distorted and presented to the cult, and they'll just become one other statistic, another bash, some other bash that just took his life because apparently he just didn't care. No, what's going on? What is going on? And they'll say people leave signs of wanting not caring anymore. This is when you come in and swoop and save them. So that's when people can be saved. Oh, right. But you post that no, nobody can change anyone. They have to change for themselves. Wow, what a shame. So why do people get put on suicide watch and this? No, shouldn't you just leave them be because you respect them and they respect you and this and then you say no, it's because they're mentally ill. You have to just go in there and smash them and just say, "No, you're so beautiful and worth living. Don't kill yourself." And that's when they can't wait to boast about how much they care, about how much they care, right? When when somebody starts giving out suicide, that's when they start to care. What? I didn't know it was this bad. Oh no! Oh no! 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 Right? And they call some bash helpline and this. Oh, what do I do? Yo, tell me, please. I'm clueless. Exactly. Who knew your cluelessness leads to people? Who knew cluelessness leads people to smash themselves? Who knew? Apparently, no one and no psychologist would tell you this. You're like, I'm depressed. You're like, wow, it's because you're smashing yourself. No. They're like, okay, tell me a bit about your life. How would you describe yourself? What would you say is the thing that you want most? What is it that you would change of your partner? And they start to spash, dissect you, slice and dice you, right? Because somehow they have the knowledge, right? No, they're just murmuring you, seducing. It's like they're laying into you. It's like some, just nasty, just demon, that's has all the lingerie on and it's just coming forward and it's just like it looks haggard, but somehow it's deceiving you to believe that it's some beautiful woman. And you're like, no, what's going on? No, no, oh, no. And all of a sudden it starts just eating your flesh. And you're like, no, I can't stop it. No, no. And all of a sudden you're just consumed. Right? All because you doubted the whole time. While you were being eaten alive, you're like, "Oh, whoa, it feels so good, but no, no, oh, it's so good, no, oh, but it's so good, no, and, oh, but I just can't get it all. I'm almost finished, no, it's smashed, right? And you're like, oh, well, no, 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 no. Life is about just enjoying everything. Just enjoy the moment, and then if the suffering gets too bad, then that's when you smash yourself. And you're like, oh no, it's a mercy kill. No, right? That's why we put dogs down, and it's moral, it's humane, right? It's humane when you put animals down because you don't want them to suffer. Wow, how have animals been dying forever? Why do we have to come in and say, it's humane? So let's just go out there and just start smash killing everything humanely. Because apparently they're not dying right. They're not dying in the right way nowadays. Guys, let's go out there and just smash, euthanize everything because it's just so inhumane. Think of all the suffering, guys. Think of all the smashed little plants that never come to fulfillment. Think of all little patch fishes that just die or get eaten. Think of all the little bacteria and plankton and all these little plates and patch, blah, 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 blah. They're just out there just dying. Guys, no. That's it. No more. Let's just end it all, guys. It's too much suffering. I can't take it. Look, it's just devouring itself. No, I cannot witness it. Wow. Exactly, worshippers of death. Deceived by the light, right? And you're like a darkened light. Oh, you be the light in the darkness. And what happens when you walk into a room and you turn on the light? Exactly. No more darkness and this and this and that. Wow. What a shame. What a shame. What a shame. For what is truly, right, what you think you know. Because apparently you can get knocked out and not remember a thing and think it's just you blinked an eye and now you're back. No, and you're like, no, it's tomorrow. You just passed out, buddy. And you're like, what? Whoa, where did I go? It's just, but somehow I'm back. And you're like, well, that proves there's no God and this and this and this. Well, in what mind would that prove that there's no God? Just because you bash don't know any coherent notion of what time passed or this and that. Wow, you're first of all, your flesh, your body was still alive in the sense of beating heart, you're breathing, all your cells were being replenished and this. Your body was working. It was just it's your bash awareness, right? Your state of supposed consciousness is what was affected, right? Who knew that in life you can abuse the flesh to a point, right? Either by voluntary ingestion of drugs or whatever, or by physical force to knock you out cold, out. You're out, comatized, right? You're just gone. You're out there. And you come back and you're like, oh, well, no, I didn't see anything. I don't remember. It was just nothing, just nothing, and just I woke up, right? So what's going on? And you're like, that just proves it's just abyss. It's nothing. That's what life is, guys. When you die, it's nothing. Well, no, you because the whole time you were alive, you were alive, right? Which what you call what biologically you would call alive, right? Your bash flesh didn't die. It wasn't dead. Your heart didn't stop pumping, your blood turned cold, and you're put in the fridge, and then you came back. No, you were alive the whole time. Life. Well, who knew, right? And then you say, no, 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 it's because your consciousness, that's life. The flesh is somehow just a mechanical thing that somehow just you see as animation. What? No, smashed. So then, where does evolution come into play? Because consciousness that would assume an intelligence, right? Because how would an intelligence, just not be and then somehow make itself? No, there is a ordinance. There's a law. There are laws that are followed, that are executed, right? Whether you consider them to be arbitrary or random, no, they're following some order. And you say, no, it's chaos, and then it's order. No, smashed. What is going on? No. And you say, the smoke. The smoke is proof. The smoke rises, and then it gets chaotic, and then it goes straight again. That's chaos and order. Don't you see? No. Because first you had to have a flame, and then you had to turn the flame bash off, and then you could see the splash smoke and use that metaphor. No, exactly. And you say, well, there's distortions, and then harmony. Distortion and harmony is what we call frequency and this and that. That's what it is, people. Right, so then what animates the distortion? What you don't know. It's just somehow there, but there's a little song that the violins are playing and you come in and out. Wow, what a shame. And then that's when you cry. When the violins start playing and then you cry for the bash person that took their own life. Who knew? That caused their own death. But they didn't say that take their own life. They say that caused their own death. See, they're very sneaky. right? Because you should read suicide is the act of taking your own life. Yes, smashing, blowing your brains out, choking yourself out, right? Popping pills relentlessly, right? Just obliterating yourself into just knowingly no. But then we'll be told as it, he didn't know how much he took. It was an accident. He had trouble sleeping, people. He just didn't know. Oh, right? Because you say, no, there couldn't be a point when a person would just want to end it all, right? They listen to a voice and long enough that they succumb to the murmurs of death, right? Death is like, yes, I will soothe you. My darkness and blackness forever will soothe you. For when you do this, it will just all end. And you're like, well, why would somebody do that? Do they not know their love? No, they reject love too. Because they're like, the world, there's no love in the world. I never received love. My bash interpretation of love is not enough. For that love which I have given has been rejected, and the love that has been shown to me is false. For in the end, it leaves me. And all this and that and this and this and that and this and this and that. And ultimately, you succumb to the promise of death. That the promise of death is just nothing, peace. And you're like, yes, at least I'll have nothing because I'm not at peace. I'm in relentless war and conflict and suffering and pain and just detrimental desolation forever. And I just need blackness and darkness forever. Just gone. Just the abyss, the void, the vacuum. And you're like, well, at least I'll be in space somewhere. Who cares? I'm stardust. Right? Because in what life, right? In what life would life say, not life? Wow, what a shame. For even in your dying breath, right? That's your last breath. Whether you're in pain or in suffering or in bliss, who gives a bash? It's your last breath. Why would you not want to be there and see it to the end and not altered or not just bash, sedated and just somehow gone, right? Because when you take all these bash pills and just drugs, it's like, it's just gone, disconnect, nothing, darkness and blackness forever. Because, yeah, sure, people can testify to that experience when they get put under. For example, when surgery, this, it's like all they remember was counting back from seven, and then all of a sudden now they just woke up and now they have a gash in their back chest. Whoa, who knew? But your flesh was still alive. I mean, yeah, who knew? But now your bash is not going to be your life. Your body's gone. You're just slaying. It's like you're cutting the pig's throat, right? And apparently that's just humane, right? You slit the pig's throat because it's more humane to die that way. Because you don't want to blast it, in the skull because sometimes they survive and it's just cruel and this and this. So at least with slitting its throat, at least it suffers less. Wow, exactly. You have reasoned and weaseled your way. It's the worm. You have wormed yourself into just accepting, right? The worship of death. Because you know that you in this state of being, you die. Meaning this is it. You know the mortality of your life. But what is it? Life, exactly. Life everlasting. And what you witness as supposed death is now become what you worship instead of life. Knowing what life is, knowing where it comes from, where it's going, the true promise, the resolve, the intelligence of it all, and the glory of the Creator who knew salvation of the Word in truth. for it's the way. But suicide apparently is the act of intentionally causing your own death, and mental disorders, including depression, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, personality disorders, anxiety disorders, and substance abuse, namely alcohol and the use of benzodiazepines. Who knew? Painkillers? Who gives a bash? But they gave the chemical name instead of the over the counter bash name of what it does, because alcohol no problem, but sure it's the chemical name too, but you know what it is. This could be anything. Benzos, class of psychoactive drugs, use chemical structures. They tell you all about the chemical and then what it does, right? But the chemical this is smashed. Oh, some suicides are impulse. Oh, so all of a sudden you just wake up and you're like, I'm gonna smash myself. Over. Such as from financial difficulties, troubles with relationships, or bullying. Or what about being caught in a really disgusting lie, right? Or caught living a dual life, or just being caught at something that you will deem just deplorable, even though you knew the whole time that you were doing that it was deplorable. But now you know, oh my life, I just bash. So you're just angry at yourself, and you hate yourself so much that you just kill yourself. But other ones, you're like, well, they're just slow creeping, because the other ones are just quick, right? But they had to put all the bash. Oh no, just the victim. Oh, with relationships. Oh, so why do people take their lives when their relationship fails? Uh, because they identified their life as the relationship, and without it, now they're nothing. Wow. Bullying. Exactly. Your identity is being smashed, and therefore you have nothing. Oh, and financial difficulties. Exactly. Because ultimately, money is your Lord, and without it, you feel yourself worthless. So, what is going on? Those who have if you didn't succeed the first time, you'll try again. Oh, so prevention, right? It's improving economic conditions. What? Suicide preventions include reducing access to weapons, drugs, poisons. So they're put on suicide watch. Proper media reporting of suicide. So make sure you report it, people. This and that and this. And improving economic conditions. So, guys, if you just had enough money, then you wouldn't kill yourself. Wow, what a shame. What are they saying? Right? Because there's no such thing as poor management. There's no such thing as being completely vain. There's no such thing as just wrecking your life. And all of a sudden, you saying, no, it's just the systems failed them. They didn't tell them better. We didn't teach them better. So now we just have to go out relentless and create relentless little buildings that will teach people whatever it is that you say they need to know. Exactly, because everyone has denied the wisdom of life, which has a creator. So what is the wisdom of the creator? What is the wisdom? Well, salvation is the word. Who knew? Without its revelation, it surely would be suicide. For surely it would fulfill that which you believe, which is the slow suicide. That life is just somehow here and you slowly die. What a shame. What is this? Is suicide justified? Oh, don't forget, Sadhguru, a yogi mystic and visionary humanitarian. Wow, he's so humanitarian. Wow, couldn't wait.
All the cultures in the world, they have a common thing that they revere human life. Taking away your own life or somebody else's life is not considered proper. But if one is really suffering, one has got a bad deal in this life, then why can't just one, start a new game, end this one?
Oh, exactly, because they believe in reincarnation. So he's like, if you were dealt a bad game, a bad card, a bad hand, then you should just be you should just be allowed to just cut the line and just smash yourself because you'll come back and start again. You say this to somebody who doesn't believe in reincarnation and this and that, and they're like, "Well, I believe in stardust, so I believe that I'll be part of some other living form or some other thing, and this and that's how I come back." But you'll deny of like, "Well, I don't necessarily believe that I'll come back as a person or an animal or an insect or something." No. That's for bash people, right? So you deny this whole culture. Amazing. And then you say, I'm tolerant. I'm so embrace. I respect their vision of life. Yes, yes, yes. And they should respect my vision of life. Yes, yes, yes. Right? This and this. But they're talking about, right? So you think the UN is somehow amazing because everybody's just coming together and just creating all these policies for humanity. No. How can that be if somebody doesn't believe that they'll be reincarnated, right? But this batch does, and their whole culture does. So and then you think, well, no, politics and religion are two separate things. Oh, what a shame. For truly, if you believe in the hierarchy of the Bash system, then you'll say, well, who does number one answer to? If number three and number two answer to number one, then who does number one answer to? And you're like, well, to themselves. That's why they're tyrants. No, for ultimately they serve lawlessness, just ultimate doing as thou wilt at the cost of life, meaning of the relentless abuse of life. And that clearly is what we live in day in day out, and we witness it, for we have succumbed to the lie, believing the deception, believing the counterfeit presentation of what life is and what it's doing and how you bash, and you can even come back. Guys, you come back, so just kill yourselves and come back because you come back. And you're like, well, if depending on if you were a good person, then you will come back as something greater and you'll have a better opportunity. But if not, then sadly you will just be crushed and have a even more devastating experience. And it's just a betterment of, Gaia and the relentless goddess spirit and this and this. It's knowing itself, and you just have to grow with it and just feedback. It's just relentlessly just evolving as it gives life to you, and this and this, and it's the breath of just relentless air going nowhere in circles from north, east, west. It just somehow magic is true in Earth. Somehow you can tap into the spirits of Earth, and if there's other Bagayas out there, then those other bashes are tapping into the spirits of that place, and they're out there smashing, and they're smashing us, and smashing in and out, and in and out. And that's why we're smashing each other, and this, and this, and this, and this, and this. No, what a shame. All because you deny, right, this plant. You deny, wow, that's a woman, and there's a bunch of people in front of me. Wow, who knew? You're in denial. You're all bitch bash talking about kill yourself to come back. Wow, what a shame.
One and restart the game. Is there anything wrong with that?
So if I have a bad deal, don't I have the right to shut it up and come back again? If you have a bad deal with your job, you could just quit. If you have a bad deal with your marriage, you could just divorce. If you have a bad deal with the society in which you live, you can come to Isha Yoga Center. If you have a bad deal in Isha Yoga Center, you can go up the mountain.
Right, so this bash, is he talking about some bash? Oh, we have bliss. If we're suffering, then we can just sit down and just bash, just rocket into the abyss and swim with baby Buddha and the relentless wizards of all mysticism, and then just be amazingly tossed around and just come back. And if that's not good enough, then we just go out for a hike.
So, these are not good enough reasons for you to end the process of life. First of all, you didn't create it, so you don't talk about ending it.
Oh, right. So you didn't create it, but then everyone worships creating a new world through your own efforts of collaborating, organizing people. Yes, just organize people, relentless action groups, and this, and ultimately beg council to beg. Just beg and beg and beg and beg, and then think you're collaborating to just put these things into motion, and then beg for money, beg for funding and support because we're the change. And then the people that are actually getting the money, right, for their projects, and they're like, yes, we are the change. And then the bash people that are trying to do some other bash project or about their change, they're saying, no, give us the money. Let us make this change. So who allows the change to apparently happen? Well, ultimately some bash wizard, right? Some bash wizard that decides who gets funded and who gets not, who gets credit, who's in favor, who's out of favor, what idea is good, what idea is bad, who decides? Oh, you say the free market, and so there's bashes that are just bashed to think a certain way, so they're generally pick as they're told to pick. And you're like, nobody tells me to pick anything. Wow, what a shame. You're already being druided. You're being overlorded and sucked dry. But you don't know. You say, I have choice, I have free will. Right. Yeah, free will to suffer and die. Because that's what you worship. Exactly.
Unless your identity as a separate being or a separate person has disappeared, and you and the source of creation are just the same. If you come to that point, then you can just throw away your body consciously. Then you're allowed to do it.
What do you say? If you're just gone, if you know that your separate being is just gone, then just cut the flesh. Then you know that you could just prune yourself out. Just cut yourself at the root and say, goodbye, world. It was, well, I can't say it was great, but it was, I'll see you later. Or not. And this and this and that, and then you're like, smash. So what's this guy saying? If you're separate, let's listen to what this Bash says again.
And you and the source of creation are just the same. If you're a being or a separate person, your identity as a separate being or a separate person.
So if your identity has a separate person, right? So is he saying, oh, mental illness? If you're mentally ill, just kill yourself. Is that what he's saying? He's saying, if your identity has a different person, a separate person, and you identify your life with that person, and then somehow that other person is gone, well, just end it.
Has disappeared, and you and the source of creation are just the same. If you come to that point…
So it's gone. He's saying you and your social creation are just the same, right? So to others, you're just gone. You're just not there. You're not the same. Your Bash identity partner just left you, and then some. You're just not the same. You're not even alive. You should just end it. And this guy is saying, yep.
Point, then you can just throw away your body consciously. Then you're allowed to do it.
Right, so what about all the people that are just relentlessly throwing their lives away, right? Pursuing false promises. And you'll say, no, it's their choice. Let them live. Let them suffer and die.
Wow. So that's how you raise your children, right? Okay, sweetie, you're just gonna suffer and die. And I'll let you do whatever you want. You abuse yourself whichever way you want. Because I did the same. And I came to some conclusions, but it's just my maybe theory, and I can't enforce it on you. You have just to decide for yourself and get smashed. Don't worry, I mean nothing. I'm not even your father. I'm just a name. I'm just here to witness you and give you some sort of guidance. And just, I think I'm supposed to feed you. But no, there's no responsibility, nothing I can ever do to even get you close to the truth. Nope, there's no such thing. So therefore, if you're just bashed, second identity persona has just left you, and then physically, socially, you're just gone as well, then go ahead and smash yourself. So what
Not
happens exactly? What happens to all the people that are out there just gone? So somebody just be humane and just euthanize them all? Clearly, that's what Satan is convincing you that you're doing. That you're just letting people die because they're just suffering. You don't need to just bring people into suffering. Let them suffer less. In fact, and how do you suffer less? Yes, give them a little more gas. Give them a little more just sedation. Let them suffer less. We're doing them good. We're doing them good and just killing them off. Don't worry. We're doing you good, buddy. You don't know what you're missing. You might miss your last breath, but we're making sure that we beat it to it. We're going to beat you to death. Exactly. They're going to beat you to death. And you're like, yes, please. At least it's a mercy kill. What a shame.
by damaging the body, not by hanging from a tree. We don't mind burying you under the tree, but hanging from a tree is neither good for you nor for the tree.
Yes, it is. What if your corpse just dies and then you're just eventually rot and be food for the tree? Huh? And you're like, no, 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 no. It's just not decent. Just do damage to your flesh and it's okay. Just cut your veins and just go into the bathtub and it's okay. At least you'll be soothing and warm and it might sting a little, but you'll just feel the ease of it just leaving your bash body. And it'll be just bliss. You'll be in bliss and just blackness is darkness forever, and then who cares? Right? Who cares? Because clearly you didn't care enough to just not kill yourself. You just were the relentless thrill seeker, and this was the ultimate thrill death. And you're like, yep, I did it. I'm surfing that wave. I'm cutting that wave, and I'm going to come back, hopefully, because I believe my whole life, as some other murmur. Wow. For clearly in the life, I just had nothing. It was just nothing, so I made it nothing.
We already looked at this. Whether it's a good deal or a bad deal, if you have a larger purpose, everything is a stepping stone.
Oh, right, because there's only a select few that know that they're here for a higher purpose. You just have to meditate and just sit down and get hemorrhoids and blast with the piss and swim backstroke and front stroke with the occasional butterfly stroke if you feel so inclined. And then you just know what your higher self is. And then you're just going to get blasted and blasted. And then you could sit down and get hemorrhoids again every day so that you become just obliterated. Obliterated in your self gloat and your self pride and your self betterment. Because, yes, you're carving away through the layers of your onions and your soul retrieval of the relentless shanked holes that you have from all the times that you've relentlessly abused your life and others. And it's just been amazing, but at the same time, just so horrific because it's just so painful and it's just emotions, and somehow you call it this and this and that. And it's all who knew it's just love hurts, right? Love hurts, people. Oh, who knew love hurts, right? What a shame. No, abuse hurts, right? Abuse hurts. And what you call emotions is just your abuse. Who knew? Who knew it's just the relentless shape shifting ways that the abuse surfaces? Who knew? Who knew? For without abuse, right? What is it? You're like, no, no, no. We need abuse because that's what life is, people. Life is suffering. Don't you know, buddy? Clearly, suffering is
death, meaning death, the death of your certainty, your separation, your doubt, right? Recognizing that you are wrong, you did wrong. How did you know that you did wrong? You needed to know what good and evil was. Otherwise, how you would know? How did you know you did wrong, buddy? Right? How did you know? How does one know they did wrong? They know. How do they know? Oh, they know. What? You had to know. What? Good and evil. So exactly. How did you know? Well, it's just there. No, it's just things that you do. No. What? How did you know? You don't have to know. You have to do something to know it's evil. How do you know? Oh, I just know, but somehow no. It's just my vast eternal consciousness and light just telling me because that was the Big Bang and just it knew. It, light was just somehow moral. It was just the moralist thing. It was the pure light, so therefore pureness, moral. That's how I convince myself. Yes. So we get our morality from light, from the laws of the law of attraction, people, and thermodynamics, and physics, and relentless stardust. Don't worry, people. It all works out in the end because you're here, aren't you? So therefore, we can just boast and say whatever it is, and then say, "See, we're alive." So we prove our way of proof of life is this, and that, and this. But it's certainly not that. And those other ways, because we clearly have the little teeny things that just bash you and tell you things on the screen, and therefore we are right. Well, amazing. Clearly we worship that shapeshifts in front of our eyes, telling us murmurs. Yes, who knew? For we could create any image that we wanted and present it as truth. That shapeshifts. But no, we've forgotten what words are. And if the word is salvation, without the word, without the truth, without life, what is there exactly? Nothing. And who knew that in truth and life and in the way is love? Unconditional, that which brings forth the love unconditional of the Father, that giveth, createth, and gave us his only begotten Son to reveal it. All that is known. Who knew? And through that is wisdom. The witness, the wisdom to witness and endure life as we know it in this mortal encapsulation. Who knew? But no, it had to be some relentless thing that you could just carve out and kill. Amazing. Because you choose to, not because somebody murders you. No, because you choose to.
Everything is a stepping stone for your ultimate well-being, if you have set the larger goal. Every situation that you get into, you are getting so identified and caught up with it, now it feels like it's better to end your life. Anyway, this is…
Who knew you don't actually? And he's like, nah, anyway, can we just talk about something else? He's like, boring. No, who knew that he doesn't want to talk about it because maybe somebody was planted to ask this. But what is going on? He's saying nothing. He's saying nothing. For how do you actually kill you don't kill yourself. You just think you have killed yourself. All you did was slain the flesh. But what have you ultimately said? That was the ultimate manifestation of your own will in living. Right? You executed your own will over the Creator's will. Right? It's like the ultimate FU. Your own will, right? Because even in your diseased body dying, you're like, oh, please kill me, right? Surely everyone deserves what they're living, and surely what they die. Which interpretation of death you die, right? Whether it's interpreted to be an accident or just a peaceful death or this or that or just the most horrific thing, right? Who are we to judge what happens to us? You're like, it's just so unfair. There was just so much life in him and promise. Fine, if we're gonna judge and say and then dictate who lives and dies, right? That's all. That's a wet dream, right? And surely we're executing it through the children and the convincing way that of how we're posting and shape shifting into gods. That's how we think we're creating, because we want to feel creation. We want to feel creation and tell it to f off because we are in control now, right? You're like, fine, I can't kill myself because I can philosophically understand that it's just futile and just pointless and actually just bash cowardice and ignorant. So, fine, my way to just tell the creator to F off is to bash create a counterfeit that's so close to life, meaning what you think you're living is false. Meaning, are you actually living at all? Or did you merely just abuse life and choose death? For surely we have the word, which clearly revealeth the truth, the way, and the life. Who knew?
Lot of bull. Because today something is going wrong, you want to end your life. Tomorrow morning something is going right, you want to live. You want to have your third baby.
Right. So he's promoting solipsism and just bash self-relativism, subjective self and ego and passion. It's rising above like the phoenix and bash, bash, bash. Right. And then you say, no. It's just that we're all tapped into the same human consciousness, man. Didn't you know? It's the individual through the collective, right? Oh, what a shame, right? Do we not recognize that either we're in the same spirit, as in the same acknowledgement of what it is that we're actually worshiping, engaging with, ritualizing our lives, meaning behaving in, with, through, and total encompassing of your daily filtering. Uncertainty, right? And you're like, no, I can still be swayed. For surely it could be this, it could be that, it could be this. But yet, day in, day out, I expect it to come in and just go out into my schedule, have coffee and this and this, and then keep abusing until I'm diagnosed with some past disease and say this and this and then suffer and die. Right? No. What is this guy talking about? Right? What is going on?
You want
He's like, you're not.
to get married once again.
So you have to set goals, right? And that's how you get out of committing suicide. Oh.
If things are going little better tomorrow morning, you'll have plans. Everything looks bleak, you think of suicide, isn't it?
Because what? Okay. Oh, this is truly just bash, right? Because who just sat there and said, yes, suicide? Who was ever born and said, you know what, just suicide? Somebody has to teach them what it is, so they grow up knowing. So at some point, somebody described what death was to them. Clearly, it was just like, kid, it's just life is just suffering, and then just you die, and that's it. There's nothing. Just fill yourself and try to survive. That's what it is, kid. And the kid's like, oh, what a shame. And then they're convinced relentlessly will grow, and they're like, yeah, the world taught me right. We're nothing. It's just meaningless. What's the point? I'm just gonna turn back to dust as the stardust is, and hope just who cares? None of it means anything. We're not important. This and that, and just see you later. The most commonly used method of suicide varies between countries and is partly related to the availability of effective means, meaning guns. Common method of suicide is hanging, pesticide poisoning, and firearms. Wow, number 1 is hanging. Number 2 it is pesticide poisoning. Wow. So just people that farmers, just a bunch of farmers just killing themselves. Who knew? Because who goes to buy pesticides and say, "Yep, this I'm going to guzzle down pesticides." Right? Or did they research and say, "Oh, these bash farmers kill themselves with pesticide. Wow, it's so effective. I'm going to use that." Because who knew the obvious was just a firearm? You know, wow, guns kill. Who knew? Oh, right, just relentless. So who needed to know what suicide was? Who how did the belief that killing yourself was somehow merciful in the sense of I'm going to do it? Because sure you could interpret it and to say, well, why did God, make us mortal? No, he didn't make you mortal. For life is everlasting, yet knowing good and evil surely is death. Eating good eating in the knowledge of good and evil, right? That is your sustenance. Wow, is death for your rejected life. Certainty, the true promise, that which is relentlessly abundant and available. All because of doubt. So who knew that person will say it's quite actually, courageous to kill yourself? No, it's complete. You're confused to the very last moment where it's just like yes, no, and then you say yes, bash, and then it's gone. So even at the last minute, it's just like yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, and then you're like, stop being such a sissy, and then you pull the trigger. Right? Because who just gets a gun and just bash, blows their plans out, right? Why do they have to wait to go home and do it? Why don't they just buy the gun, right? As soon as they get it from the store, why don't they just blow their plans out right there? Who cares, right? No, they go home, they sit down, they probably drink, just guzzle down relentless alcohol and other substances, and then just say, see, life is meaningless, and they smash themselves. Or they'll say, no, they were just depressed and they had mental illness and nobody helped them and the system failed them and they just bash themselves. Oh, right? Just relentless justifications. Because ultimately, everyone condones suicide. They're like, yeah, it happens. It's a shame, but, well, too bad. Let's just make relentless call centers and helplines and education about death, all the reasons why you should live, all while telling you that it's okay to kill yourself if you want to, because it's mercy killing. Well, and people believe in euthanasia and this, and just mercy kills everywhere, left, right, and center. Because it's just different, man. It's just about suffering. Wow, wow. So you just rather kill yourself than suffer. And you're like, no, it's just if I suffer when I'm dying, I just want to kill myself. Because I know I'm dying, right? I was told I only had 3 weeks or 2 months or a year at best, and then I just kill myself because I don't want to go through the suffering. All right then. So why were you living the whole time then? Because surely you suffered and you thought that certain things were just unsurmountable and this and this. But just because you thought you would keep living, you just didn't kill yourself, right? And now that you know you're gonna die, apparently now you want to kill yourself. So the whole time you didn't know you were gonna die. Wow, amazing. Yet you live in a world that apparently worships death. Yes. So you're just lost in your abyss. Exactly. You thought you were living when the whole time you were worshipping death. That's why you kill yourself, because you want to escape death. You want to outsmart it. You want to say, see, haha, you don't get to make me suffer in the flesh because I'm not the flesh. I'm just a bash consciousness Consciousness that just can be bashed and knocked out and not even remember. Amazing.
So this is just a game that you're playing in your mind. It once happened. A salesman decided to go into a new development, housing development. He thought no other salesman would have still ventured yet because it's a new development. So he wanted to be the first one, be the early bird. So he went and knocked on the very first house that he saw there. A lady came and opened the door. Without giving her a chance, he just slipped into her house, took a lot of cow dung, fresh cow dung, from his bag and threw it all over the new carpet. And he said, "See, I have a wonder vacuum cleaner. You watch it. I'll clean this carpet without even leaving the slightest of odor. If I don't do it, I will eat every piece of this cow dung myself. I will eat it." So the lady asked, "Would you like some tomato sauce?" Because we still do not have electricity in the house. What you need is a little bit of tomato sauce. Tastes a little good, then you suddenly want to live. Just eating cow dung, you feel like dying.
Right, but he won't tell you what he means.
You stood up and said, "Sadhguru,
Oh, but you could do.
if you know what you are uttering, such nonsense should not come out of your mouth. There is no meaning to Sadhguru when you are wanting to end your life, because it's not worthwhile sitting here, that's what you're telling me. Is it? It's not worthwhile sitting here.
Right, even in suffering, right? You say, exactly, it's not worth living in suffering, so I'm just gonna end it. Wow. And everyone's pain is subjective, and even in your physical pain, even people will interpret that subjectively, apparently. You'll say, well, that just means people have higher pain tolerance and this and this. So it's just you should let the ones that have weak suffering pain tolerance to just end it before it's too much. Right. So every person that comes in and says, "I bashed my life is nothing. I just want to end it all," and they're like, "Okay, right on, right away, sir. We'll make sure we end your life in the most timely fashion. Don't worry, we got you, bud." Right? Is that what's happening? And this guy's like saying, "Well, wait, how dare you say that?" He's saying, what it bliss would be meaningless if you end your life. Because how can you witness bliss if you're not alive and this and this and this and this and that and this? What is he saying? Just murmurs. He's saying, guys, your relativism is going to bash lead you to kill yourself, but listen, it's okay to be relative. Because we could believe that we come in and out and then come back and this and that, but we have to do it the natural way. And if we don't do it, then we're bashed. But the other guys that don't believe in that, then, well, they're still going to come back and realize that they came back and this and this and that and that. And they'll say, okay, I now understand. And see, that's the whole point of life, to just come back and realize. No, life. Wow, witness. It's the witness. Wow, what is it on earth? blood, water, and the Spirit, right? In heaven, right? The Father, the Word, and the Holy Spirit. Who knew? So what animates you? What do you choose in the sense of, is it a choice or a recognition? Do you know? Do you see? Is there certainty in you? Do you have faith? For ultimately, it's faith. Do you know? Certainty is faith, right? Because you say, well, I can't know anything, but I can certainty. I can have conviction and just stand in 100%. Just go and say yes with no doubt. I can do that. And who knew that people actually know that and they end up doing that? But then it's said that it's okay to do whatever you want, anything and everything. And if it's just not right, then it's just a mistake. Everyone just makes mistakes. Surely as a child, but that's what their parent is for. But then you're supposedly as an adult, you should know better, right? And this, but you're like, no, it's just greed and envy and just power, and just tyranny. Smashed. No, it's the execution of the lie, right? Executed by men who answer to the lawless one, the lawlessness, all while convincing the world that it is just and righteous. What a shame.
You're not in grace. You're somewhere. About how your job is not working, how your family is
Right, so being in grace is somehow wanting to live, not wanting to die, and then the other person that wants to kill themselves is not in grace. Wow, what a shame. For clearly we're all living, whether you label somebody mentally ill or not, or some bash guru or some bash depravate or this. No, we're all alive. Don't you see? And these guys say, well, clearly it's obvious. But here's the thing he's going to say. We're all just interpreting it differently. And your DNA is epigeneticizing itself into bliss and this and that. And you're just positive, attracting every defiling friction to your life that sodomizes you and tells you it's unconditional love and just defiling and abusing your flesh. And just taking and smashing you and sharing you and passing you around and contorting and slopping you around and promising you that you are fulfilling yourself. Yes! You're fulfilling yourself by stretching your out, just saying maybe somehow commitment, maybe not, somehow this, it's my body, my power, my fluids, my life, this, that, the other. It's just, smash, pleasure, betterment, better. I make my strengths more in him and his weaknesses in mine and hers and smashing this and that and we're just relentlessly the power couple of yin and yang and smashing in the darkness and just being blind. But somehow we have a third eye that smashes us and makes us float and get by, volcanoize into the aspens of nowhere. And this guy's saying, yep, it's all of that too. But first, you must not kill yourself, for somehow it wouldn't be in concordance to my guruism. Because I boast and preach about, yes, have swimming and magic, just rainbows through magic carpets and the pot of gold that just smash you. All because it's just so open-minded and so open and it's just slithering you when you sleep. It's like it's licking your most sensitive sphincters while you sleep and you're like, oh, what's going on? No! And you wake up and it's all of a sudden shapeshifted into what you think is some beautiful woman when in fact it's some shapeshifted just a monstrosity that took your life. Promised you and said, didn't that feel good? And you're like, yeah, but somehow I know it just wasn't that. And you're like, oh, see you tomorrow? Okay, next time. All right, same time, same place. Amazing. What a shame, right? And people say, well, you're allowed to just go execute and do whatever you want because in the end, you either get better or you don't, and then you just kill yourself or just choose life. So in the end, it's just allowed to let people live, let them guide, just give them relentless guns and say, okay, Russian roulette, there's a bullet in here, just roll it and just somehow you die. It's the new way to live, people. Every day you wake up, spin the trigger and just pull the trigger. Spin the whatever casing, whatever you bash call the revolver, and then just hope for the best. Because surely it doesn't matter. For surely it's the gamble of your life that you're like, nah, I'm just stardust. Doesn't mean anything. Just desolation after billions of Harry Potter years. just further survival, just murdering and murder, but somehow it's following order of life because life is here to self-preserve. For surely life is somehow important, but somehow not because somehow it just happened and just somehow just not quite there because it just somehow just we're just flawed. We're not completely perfect, even though the whole perfect aspect of the universe just somehow bashes and works just perfectly. Amazing. So it just doesn't work, but it somehow does work. And now we're some half bash guy with his knee blown out and just a bum heart and just some just bash brain that he just cooks up and just kills and just indulges in alcohol and other substances and just doesn't give a bash because somehow he's just diseased and he's the cancer when in fact he is the notion of cancer, meaning that which is thought himself to be separate and create his own break off civilization that is going to metastasize into the universe. Who knew? So you are the cancer, meaning you the belief of the swarm murmurs that you believe is what has convinced you to manifest that in your flesh. Who knew? And you say, no, cancer is as old as the sun. Wow. So cancer existed the whole time through evolution. Amazing. Right? So disease apparently just was from the beginning. Disease, right? So so disease existed in the first cell, right? How could a disease cell survive? No. What a shame. What a shame. And you're like, well, no, over billions of trillions of Harry Potter years, that's how it became corrupt, and that's how you have disease. And this, no. How could something be so perfect and then just corrupt itself? Nothing around you tells you that it's just bash, some clinkety crankety, bash rusted car that's just somehow just survived all these billions of Harry Potter years. No. Everything still is amazing. Everything still is amazing and just perfect. And just because you can come to say engineer, scientific, the physics of it all, it's just not quite the angles and this. We could have been created, designed a little better and this and this and that and this. No. What a shame. Denying life, deniers of life, all boasters of just complaining. Boasters of victimhood. For who knew you need to look up to this guy and say, yep, thank you. Otherwise, I would have blown on my brain tonight. Thank you. Thank you for just bashing me with just bash nonsense and bash, empty promises of setting goals. And if I just get a girlfriend or if I just get some of my act together in life, somehow I won't want to kill myself anymore. Right? What's going on? Why are people killing themselves? Right? Oh, it's just this thing called suicide. Didn't you know? It's just this thing called suicide that, wow, it results in more than 500,000 people just smashing every year since 2015. Now it's probably 1 million a year. Who knew? 0.5% of people die by suicide. Wow. And you're like, well, don't worry. It's just 0.5 people. Don't worry. The rest of us are killing ourselves in other relentless, foolish ways. Don't worry. The ultimate foolish way to kill yourself is only 0.5%. Right? Because who knew that actually everybody does have a suicidal, outlook to life. They're like YOLO. They're like, yes, I'm going to risk and just attempt all feats because I know my mortality, but still, I'm going to go out there and test it. Right? Suicide. Because even the guy that pulls the trigger, he's like, see, I know what it is, but I'm still going to test it because I'm still not sure if this blackness and darkness forever, but that's what I have faith in. And you're just like, pull the trigger. Because you trust yourself more. But what is yourself? And you're like, no, I meditated so much. That is myself. I just rose above. That's why I didn't kill myself. So does that mean that people that kill themselves are just in their basal self? And you're like, yes, so to speak. No, what a shame. Right, so there's just relentless people that are, living from their basal selves and higher selves and basal selves and higher self. No, what a shame. Everybody's just living out there, and most of people are in denial. They're deceived. So it's like a spell. You're under a spell, a murmur, and that's what it is. You're not bash awakened or in a higher self. No. What a shame. What a shame. What a shame. And clearly drugs aren't a clue for you enough that that's what it is. Who knew that drugs are a clear way to, to actually put your put yourself in alteration. You alter, right? But what alters ultimately is how you come to understand it. How do you come to understand it through words? Through your murmur of words. And that's why it's so easy for you to just panic because you've only been raised with words of panic, meaning desolation, anxiety, stress, all boasting that they're things that you should have and should work for, and they're tools on your ride to success. What a shame. Oh, what a shame. Oh, right. And who knew? Mental illness, previous attempts at substance misuse, childhood trauma, problem gambling, medical conditions, psychological states, psychosocial media rationale. Smashed.
Freaking you. Oh, something else is happening. That's all you're thinking about. Just be here. Suddenly it'll be worthwhile.
Oh, the power of
I'll make
now,
it worthwhile.
people. He's like, you have to find the worth in being here, and then that's your saving anchor. What? Exactly. Because you're still sinking. For who knew that might temporarily, keep you afloat, but no. In your wrongdoing, you're still gonna suffer and die. For surely we're all wrong because have succumbed. We're by being born and being raised in the deception is right is immoral because we perpetuate it. We're the ones that carry it out. We're the ones that live it and do it to ourselves. Right? Because something can murmur in your ear and in your mind and then it's actually something it's actually men that carry it out. So in it's a conflict, right? Whether you do it or you don't. And that's where it comes in where when your perspective of what it is that you're doing is either subjectively right or wrong because that you have come to deny that there's such a thing as absolute right and wrong, the knowledge of good and evil. If there's such a thing of knowledge of good and evil, that means that there's absolutes. Because it can't be the knowledge of relative good and relative evil. No, what a shame. And that's where you're like, well, that's why I don't believe that there's good and evil. There's only positive and then just when you're negative. Wow, what a shame. What a shame. For it's not about being the alchemist either. Being the synthesis. No, we're the witness. It's already here. We're in life. We're living. And it's clearly only our stupor that is the conflict. Our stupor because our misguided faith. We have bet on the supposed way out that is only leading us further into destruction. And clearly, that's the resolve. That which is granted to those who believe that's what it was. It's truly being granted the true annihilation for those who believed in the total abyss and just the nothingness and complete desolation. And for those who recognize what life is, the true promise, life everlasting. We'll end it there. But before that, I want to go into this because what's this? I'm a pastor who smokes marijuana.
In support of that, and it's become a controversial issue in quite a few states. In fact, on one of the internet websites, people are putting up
Because I want to see, because ultimately the way that people perhaps deal with with this mental illness, previous attempts, substance misuse, childhood trauma. Let's just call this the sufferings of the world, right? Who knew that people use substances is the most obvious one? And somehow that causes you to kill yourself more. And benzodiazepines, right? Amazing. And now that, apparently marijuana is legalized, now apparently it's going to be just more obvious, just as alcohol is now, as a means to just kind of soothe something, lift you, just as alcohol gives you the effect of being lifted, boosted, thrilled, carried through some bash experience, which is just a blunder. Light.
posters in support of smoking pot. In fact, here was one that I copied.
Yeah, what?
I copied off the internet, and it says, I'm a youth pastor at a large church, and I smoke marijuana every day that I'm not at service, Sunday, Wednesday, and Friday. And it says, my Lord still loves me. Well, that brought a question to my mind. What does God really think about smoking pot? What does he really think about the recreational use of marijuana? Is that something that God approves of? Or do we not even bother to think about what God's perspective on it is?
Right, because nobody actually talks about, that actually alcohol, being a drunkard, right? An immoral act, right? Worker of iniquity. Loving wrongdoing better than actually living. And you're like, well, no, 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 no. There's no truth in that. For clearly, alcohol is just a chemical that you put in your body that gives you the effect of just being amazing. And the only thing bad with alcohol is just the bash hangover. But don't worry, when you're young, you're likely not to experience hangovers until you abuse yourself so much that then you start getting hangovers. It's just your intensity of the alcohol abuse. And then you'll get hangovers and then just bash and bash, bash and create relentless milkshakes and greasy food to just justify doing it. Amazing. So immediately alcohol is just an obvious one, right? Right? Meaning that, wow, you have the ability to come to worship alcohol over your life. Right? Clearly you chose that bash state of supposed living. But clearly it's just a bash state of delusion. For clearly one is in abuse of the life that one has in exchange for the fantastical bash interpretation of whatever it is you say you are experiencing. What is going on?
Well, there's an interesting passage over in the book of Galatians. In Galatians chapter 5, beginning in verse 19, God talks about the deeds of the flesh, the normal, everyday human way of thinking and the actions that are a result of that. And here's what he says. He says those deeds of the flesh are evident. They are immorality, impurity, sensuality, idolatry, sorcery, and the list goes on. And then he says, those who practice such things will not inherit the kingdom of God. Now, the interesting thing, the word for sorcery here
It's
is the word.
pharmacy.
Let's get
Wow,
that
is
C
that
out
what
of
he's
there.
gonna say?
For sorcery is the word pharmakeia. Pharmakeia. It's the same Greek word that we get the word pharmacy from. It literally means drugs. The use of drugs, the administering of drugs.
Oh, what a shame, right? So this guy's only gonna attack marijuana, but he's gonna embrace medicine. Uh, See, this is the hypocrisy of the supposed, followers of Christ today. What are they saying? They're using words to say some things that they were just boasting virtue about. Because ultimately they worship the counterfeit of living that has been presented to them in life as some notion of progress, and that we are the cutting edge of some relentless technology that was just bash engineered, like in Mordor, right? In the revolution of the supposed, industry. Wow, industry just couldn't wait. That it just went beast mode. It just went beast mode for just less than 100 years, and just paved the way to whatever we have now. What a shame. It went beast mode, and then apparently, it's just marijuana that's pharmacia, and that's sorcery, guys. But don't worry about all the other drugs that you take and are prescribed by your doctor. Don't worry, they actually keep you alive. And if you have mental illness, then certainly you need pharmacia. So don't worry, it's okay. What is this guy saying? Oh, what is going on? What is going on? For all conditions of the flesh are a manifestation of the way we are exactly engaging with the knowledge of good and evil.
Drugs. And you might think, well, why does sorcery have anything to do with drugs?
Because ultimately it's not about just completely siding with good and rejecting evil. No, it's about saying, I have faith in the word, in truth, for the life is clearly the true promise of the Father who created everything. Amen. Who knew? So why would you have to just worship pharmacia and use it, right? Like an alchemist and a sorcerer for your gain, right? To decide who lives and who dies, ultimately.
Well, the context was taking into account the fact that witches or those that would practice sorcery or witchcraft would either smoke the drug, they would rub the drug all over them, they would eat it, and then they would become
Or drink
in a
it,
state
obviously.
of mind where that evil spirits then could affect them. And so that became associated with the drug use. And so when you read this in the New Testament, he's not just talking about being a witch, he's not just talking about sorcery, he's talking about the effects of that drug. Well, drugs can have good effects. You could go to a pharmacy and you can get a painkiller that is a necessary thing for a
Right, they tune you up to something. Right? They evoke something. They alter you into something. You become the altar, meaning the sacrifice in the flesh, to something that you'll just say the next day, oh, I just didn't know what I was doing. Or, wow, I want to try that again. It just felt so good. I don't know what it was. It just felt amazing.
medical situation. And that's not what he's talking about here. But here we're talking about recreationally using drugs. Do you want to be in a stupid state of mind? Is this relaxed, open mind the kind of thing that God wants you to have? Well, here he points to the fact this is something that could keep you out of the kingdom. In fact, it's not the only section of Scripture where this is mentioned. There's even another section over in the book of Revelation where it talks about the same type of thing. Revelation chapter 9, it says, mankind didn't repent of their sorceries. And once again, that's that word for pharmakeia. They didn't repent of what we could say their use of drugs. The kind of use of drugs that's going to put them in a state of mind that they don't have full control of themselves. Because that's exactly opposite of what...
Right, so because people say, well, exactly, that's why all the apostles had to have been on psychedelics, man. They were on mushrooms, everybody. They were the mushroom people.
and this and that and this and this and that and this and this and that. And they're like, wow, when they were buried in myrrh and the oil, that was a sacred oil. It was CBD oil, man. It was just CBD oil, people. And this and this. What is going on? No. Right? Because who knew that there was incense in the temple, right? Incense of what? What were they burning? Herbs? Spices? They don't say, but they say. What do they say? Just burning incense. What is incense? Well, stuff that smells funny. And it's just a mix of different herbs and different styles. And it could just be sage. You could burn relentless sweet grass and all types of grasses. So what would people, their offerings. So if marijuana was a plant and you're like, well, exactly, it's God's plant, this and this and that. So maybe what you say it was just an offering because we knew the power that it had in this and this and that and this and this. It evoked what? Was it a god over? Was it a god over humanity at one point? And that's why now it's come to be illegal. And then we're gonna want it as our leader. And we're like, yeah, man, we're just more in touch with the galactical bash, bash, bash. Take me to your leader, and this and that, and this and this. For what is it? Right? The altar. What is the altar? What altar are we opening ourselves when we bash drink? And you're like, well, it's just a demon. Fine, marijuana too, and it's just a demon. So how many demons are we possessed with? You're like, all sin is demons. All wrong, all immorality is just demon. Depravity, just the most vile, the most ugly, the most just of defilement. Horrendous, abhorrent. Right? What is it? So what is it that we're doing? What are we? So are we just convincing ourselves that we are right? So every time somebody smokes, they're like, "Yeah, I know. I'm just so smart, and I use weed to just focus and just do my art or just craft in this. It just focuses me in this, or just so that's I use it for the pain, or I just like the effect in this and this, or I just think I'm smarter with it. Oh, this and that. What is going on?" For example, clearly a drunkard could be in a state of drunkenness and still what? Is he drunk? So he's wrong. He's drunkard. He has chosen to be in a state which ultimately is in rejection of life and denial of life, right? You're like, nope, life is what I choose, and I choose to include this substance, which I know alters me, and this is what I want to live. And you say, well, anything that you put in your body was going to alter you. Anything that you put in your body is foreign. So let me choose what I put in my body. Nobody has a right to tell me what I put in my body and this and that and this. Therefore, I can just carve my body how I want it to. Right. So then you're free to guzzle down whatever you want and to consume whatever you want. Right. This and that and that and that. So then why do we care when we say, well, what about underage drinking? What about all the deaths of all the drugs that are consumed? Oh, no. Somebody should do something. And then you cry and beg. And you're like, we should just have laws and more education and centers and rehab, relentless rehab. Right? Because it couldn't be the way that they're living that is just the source of why our children turn out to just want to just bash themselves in whichever way they can. Because, wow, anything but life, please. Thank you. No, it couldn't be that. It's just recreational. But people just want like the effect. Right, so in a marriage, then you could just go out and smash some other chick and then come back to your wife. Amazing, just because it's so thrilling and amazing, right? You're like, no, it's different, right?
because apparently you're living a true life, right? When you're with your wife committed, but then you go and cheat. Well, so the same, right? So one's living life thinking that they're living life, but they're like, nah, I'm just gonna cheat and just bash myself somewhere because I choose to whenever I want and just in this quantity and that quantity. And so, what are we doing? But ultimately, what are we doing it for, right? Because even witches, when they do it, it's because they have an intention behind it, right? Is it not alcohol? Because no, not everyone that bash drinks is a witch. No, they're just fools. They bash put themselves in a state to be just dominated, and a witch can ultimately be evoke, right? Whatever it is that they want to be possessed by, and the energy they want to be surrounding them, and for the ritual and this and that and this and this and that, because it's ultimately the bash sounds of control, manipulation, alchemy, the power of self, the godlike power of just shapeshifting and just fulfilling your bash desires. Who knew? Even if they're against life. Who knew?
What God wants for us. God says He's given us a spirit of love and of a sound mind, a mind that is in control of our senses, a mind that is going to be a thinking mind that can control circumstances and what's going to come in and what's going to go out of our minds. And so God says, think about that. Don't lose.
Right. So just because you don't consume marijuana or alcohol doesn't mean you have a sound mind. Because you could say you're a Christian until you turn blue in the face, right? If the fruits of whatever it is that you say you're standing and bash by are just false, then clearly your whatever it is that you say you worship is null. For you are just still in your own way, right? In denial, choosing to accept your own failure and call it a mistake and move forward and just forgive yourself because you're too ashamed to admit that you're wrong and that you're not living in that which is pleasing to life, meaning to the Father, to He who created all. Right? You're like, well, what is pleasing to God? I don't know, but surely it's evil because He kills us. What a shame. Clearly, it just you choose to be the relentless victim, but to believe the lies that keep you saying, see, exactly. Everything's against you, and you're just nothing, and you just have to get what's yours, and do it now. And these are the tools of how you can do it. And if that's the intention behind pharmakia, surely pharmakia is perhaps the gateway, meaning knowing all tools, right, to manipulate how you perceive, because surely we're in life, and only the distortion of how you interpret yourself to be in it can be altered. For surely life is life, and we have the love unconditional Father, but through our way of filtering and perceiving, we have believed ourselves to be void. For our eyes were open to the knowledge of good and evil, having had doubt split us from certainty. And all while now in our mortal state, because of choosing the knowledge of good and evil as our sustenance. The mercy is life, granted in our mortal state, so that we could come to recognize and reconcile from that which we chose to fall away from, to do it our way. And in doing so, there is resolve, for there is completeness, faith. For even though you're blinded, you have the faith that you are saved, you are loved. And it's for you to walk home
not to wish yourself home. Endure the life. Plow and feed the Spirit. Feed in Spirit. Drink freely.
Lose control of your
Draw
mind.
near to the Father, and He will draw near to you. And the Word saves. The Word, the meaning, the truth, right? For it's not just any word. Words can be scrambled together and mean nothing. Who knew there's such a thing as truth? And through the Word of God is that peace and precision, accuracy of that which every man seeketh in life, fulfillment, certainty, in completing that which he knows he is, love and life and righteousness. Man knows what he is, but he rejects it. He rejects he was made in the image of God, for he just subscribes to believe that he's just flawed and just, some bash garbage. He's just some bash garbage just crumpled together and just given just bash faulty disease. What a shame.